Good evening. I'm Jonathan Coulter, and I am Secretary of Campaign, spelled Campain without a G. It is a non-partisan group that challenges false narratives in the national conversation and the media. Our website is www.campaign.org. The Church of England is holding its General Synod this weekend from the 23rd to the 27th of February, and we shall be standing outside and asking them to provide moral leadership over what has happened and is happening right now in Gaza, what many describe as genocide. Not only are we asking for a ceasefire, but we are calling on the church to acknowledge and call out a much longer Israeli policy of driving out the Palestinians from the land they're living. And we believe that is what is behind the slaughter and the starvation that we are witnessing on our TVs. One of those present will be retired Bishop Richard Llewellin. Now, after leaving school, Richard trained as a solicitor and later offered himself for ordination in the Church of England. He served in several parishes, including Johannesburg Cathedral, was then appointed Bishop of St. Germans in the Diocese of Truro, and later Bishop of Dover in the Canterbury Diocese. His last post before retirement was as Bishop at Lambeth and Head of Staff to the Archbishop of Canterbury. He has visited Israel and Palestine on several occasions and has lived in Bethlehem for 3 months with other internationals as an ecumenical accompanier, offering protection by presence to vulnerable Palestinians, monitoring breaches of humanitarian law, and giving support to Israeli and Palestinian peace groups. He is an honorary assistant bishop at the Canterbury Diocese at present in his retirement, or partial retirement, it would seem. Now, Richard, welcome to this.
Thank you.
And we'd just like to know what drives you. Why would you be wanting to be standing outside the synod this weekend, tomorrow, and expressing yourself?
Okay, well, I've had a long contact with Israel and Palestine. I was sent from Theological College in Cambridge to do a term at St. George's College, Jerusalem, while I was training for ordination. And that was my first introduction. That was, of course, before the '67 war. I've been back once or twice before retirement. But after retirement, I really managed to get stuck into this because although I hadn't planned to do any leading of pilgrimages, I was asked to do them. And I suppose I've led 10 or 12 pilgrimages out there, and also been there on private visits with just some friends to renew our friendship and give encouragement to Palestinians I've got to know. So it's just so happened that this part of the world is a part of the world which I've got to know and feel very strongly about, not least because of the British involvement in the whole dreadful scenario that has opened up over the last century or so. General Synod hasn't even got Gaza on its agenda. The House of Bishops did a week ago give a very strong reaction at last to this dreadful fighting which has been going on for more than 100 days now, and this utterly needless slaughter of thousands of Palestinians and destruction of at least 60% of all the housing and structures in that land. I mean, that land looks more like Hiroshima than anything else. This goes well beyond any sensible and measured reaction to the awful attack on October the 7th or 17th, 7th, I think, October the 7th,
yeah.
By Hamas, which, I don't in the least condone. I think it was a quite appalling thing and utterly wicked. On the other hand, as the President of the United Nations said, it did happen within a context. I know from a Jew who knows a great deal about going on in Israel that most Israelis see that attack by Hamas as an unprovoked attack on a peace-loving nation. No, it's not that. There is, as he said, there is a context in which this happened, and the context, of course, is the oppression of the Palestinian population of that land ever since 1948, when Israel declared itself to be a state, and a war broke out between Israel and the Arabs, and 153 Palestinian villages were destroyed completely. 750,000 Palestinians were driven out of the country. Many more were made internal refugees. And there has been this constant increasing colonization of that land by the Israelis and the oppression of the Jewish community, which has led to this ghastly situation we see now, and a response to October the 7th, which is completely beyond any business of striking against Hamas and getting the hostages released. It is the wholesale destruction of Gaza, and we see that going on. And is Rafah going to be attacked within the next fortnight or so? I think the Israeli leadership want that. Well, if that happens, there will be thousands more killed. And to what purpose? Well, the only purpose, of course, is to get rid of the Palestinians from Gaza, which is ethnic cleansing. And that is utterly wicked. So it's against this sort of thing I'm protesting personally and asking members of General Synod to put it on their agenda and to learn about the situation and to respond with a very positive message that this must stop.
Okay, thank you very much, Richard. The House of Bishops in its statement, and the Archbishop himself, have tended to use the argument of self-defense, that Israel has a right and duty to defend itself, and has then said, and then tried to put on a higher moral plane the behavior of the Israelis to that of the Palestinians. What's your reaction to that?
Anybody being attacked has a right of self-defense. If I was being attacked, I would want to defend myself as best I could. The trouble is that self-defense applies just as much to the Palestinians, and this is not being recognized, and not just in this conflict, but in the decades past, where in all kinds of ways the Palestinian community has been deeply assaulted and attacked. I'm not saying that what happened on October the 7th was self-defense. It was much deeper and more horrid than that. But it would never have happened had the history of the Palestinians since 1948 been so sad and subject to the oppression that they have had from the Israeli community. That is the context in which this whole latest conflict has broken out, and the wholesale destruction of Gaza is utterly, and its people. I mean, the whole destruction of the people of Gaza and the structures is unacceptable.
I can't help ask myself if Israel couldn't defend itself by properly sealing the border and preventing further attacks, using that massive army as well as its surveillance technology to do so.
Well, a lot of questions. I mean, when something like this happens, there are always conspiracy theories that arise, and I'm much more in favor of not conspiracy, but what we call cock-up. And I think that the Israeli intelligence and the Israeli army made an awful mess of their intelligence. But it surprises me that they allowed this to happen in the first place. I mean, allowed, not because they knew it was happening necessarily, but because they just didn't prevent it. And why they didn't, I do not know. Maybe one day we will. But that isn't the point. It did happen. It was dreadful. Yes, the Israelis no doubt needed to attack Hamas, but it isn't Hamas that's been attacked. There's been wholesale bombing, wholesale destruction, wholesale slaughter. Thousands of thousands, we know, killed, not least women and children, and also thousands more under the rubble. And if they attack Rafah, the story goes from bad to worse. It must stop.
Well, thank you very much, Richard, for this interesting talk, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Yes, Cafe Fresco at 12:30.
That's right, yes.